Lesson 1: The Investment Conversation.
Have you thought about investments?
Yes, but I am not confident in making the first move.
What worries you most about investing?
I fear losing capital and making poor choices.
That fear is common among new investors.
I also find financial jargon confusing and opaque.
Jargon can create unnecessary barriers to entry.
Where should a cautious beginner start?
Start with clear goals and a realistic time horizon.
How should I define financial goals?
Specify short, medium, and long-term targets with amounts.
Should I build an emergency fund first?
Yes, an emergency fund is foundational and prudent.
How large should the emergency fund be?
Aim for 3 to 6 months of essential expenses.
After that, what comes next for investing?
Learn basic concepts like risk, return, and diversification.
What does diversification achieve for my portfolio?
Diversification reduces the impact of any single loss.
Should I invest in individual stocks or funds first?
Many beginners prefer low-cost index funds or ETFs.
Why are index funds often recommended?
They offer broad market exposure, low fees, and simplicity.
Are fees really that important?
Fees compound over time and can reduce net returns significantly.
How much risk is acceptable for a young investor?
Younger investors often tolerate higher risk due to time to recover.
Does that mean aggressive allocation is always best for youth?
Not always, risk tolerance depends on personality and goals.
How do I measure my risk tolerance objectively?
Use questionnaires and consider emotional reactions to loss.
Should I consult a financial advisor?
An advisor can help, especially for complex situations.
How do I choose a trustworthy advisor?
Seek fiduciaries who disclose conflicts and charge transparent fees.
What if I cannot afford professional advice?
Start with reputable online resources and robo-advisors.
Robo-advisors provide algorithm-based portfolios and automatic rebalancing.
Do robo-advisors charge lower fees than human advisors?
They typically charge lower fees and require smaller minimums.
Is dollar cost averaging a valid strategy for beginners?
Yes, it reduces timing risk by investing regularly over time.
How often should I contribute when dollar cost averaging?
What about market timing and trying to buy lows?
Market timing is difficult and often counterproductive for most investors.
Should I keep cash on the sidelines waiting for a crash?
Holding cash may reduce returns and miss long-term growth opportunities.
How do taxes affect investment choices?
Taxes reduce net returns and should inform account selection.
Which accounts offer tax advantages for retirement?
Retirement accounts like IRAs or workplace plans often provide tax benefits.
Should I prioritize retirement accounts over taxable accounts?
Prioritize tax-advantaged retirement accounts up to employer match.
What is an employer match and why is it important?
An employer match is free money that boosts savings immediately.
Are there safe investment options for capital preservation?
High-quality bonds and money market funds offer lower risk and stability.
How do bonds differ from stocks in risk profile?
Bonds are debt instruments with priority in repayment and typically lower volatility.
Do bonds always protect against losses?
Bonds can lose value with rising interest rates and issuer distress.
Should I rebalance my portfolio regularly?
Periodic rebalancing maintains target risk levels and enforces discipline.
How often is rebalancing recommended?
Annual or threshold-based rebalancing is common practice.
What role does inflation play in investment planning?
Inflation erodes purchasing power and should be accounted for in returns.
How can investments outpace inflation?
Equities and real assets historically outpace inflation over long horizons.
Are dividend stocks a good source of income?
Dividend stocks can provide income but require dividend sustainability checks.
Should I reinvest dividends or take them as cash?
Reinvesting compounds growth, while cash provides immediate income.
What is the impact of leverage on investment risk?
Leverage amplifies both gains and losses and increases risk significantly.
Is margin trading appropriate for beginners?
Margin trading is risky and generally unsuitable for inexperienced investors.
How should I evaluate investment opportunities and claims?
Verify sources, demand transparency, and be wary of guaranteed returns.
Are flashy promises of high returns usually legitimate?
High, guaranteed returns are often signs of fraud or excessive risk.
How important is an investment plan before allocating funds?
A written plan clarifies objectives and guides consistent decisions.
Should emotional impulses be excluded from investing?
Emotional control is essential to avoid reactive and costly moves.
Can social media influence lead to poor investment choices?
Social media can amplify herd behavior and hype around assets.
How can I avoid falling into speculative manias?
Focus on fundamentals, long-term value, and sound diversification.
Are alternative investments like cryptocurrency suitable for all?
Alternatives can be volatile and should be a small, informed allocation.
How much of a portfolio could be safely allocated to speculative assets?
Keep speculative allocations modest and aligned with risk tolerance.
Do environmental, social, and governance criteria affect returns?
ESG factors can influence risk and long-term performance for some investors.
Should ethical considerations override return objectives?
Ethical preferences can guide allocations but should align with realistic expectations.
How do I track progress toward my financial goals?
Use periodic reviews and measurable milestones to assess progress.
What is an acceptable horizon to evaluate an investment strategy?
Evaluate over multi-year periods, not daily or weekly market noise.
Could controversy arise from public figures promoting risky investments?
Yes, celebrity endorsements without disclosure can mislead investors.
What legal protections exist against fraudulent investment schemes?
Regulators enforce disclosure rules and pursue fraudulent actors, though enforcement varies.
Should I maintain liquidity for unexpected personal needs?
Yes, preserving liquidity prevents forced selling in downturns.
How should I adapt my plan as life circumstances change?
Regularly update goals when income, family, or health situations shift.
Are investment clubs a good way to learn with others?
Investment clubs can offer shared learning but require governance and risk awareness.
Should I keep detailed records of transactions and rationale?
Good records support tax reporting and future learning from past decisions.
How do fees and taxes together affect long-term outcomes?
Compounded fees and taxes can significantly reduce long-term wealth accumulation.
Is continuing education important for investors?
Lifelong learning improves decision quality and adapts strategies to changing markets.
Can humility and patience improve investment results?
Humility and patience reduce mistakes and harness the power of compounding.
What final practical step should I take tonight?
Review your budget, draft clear goals, and commit to a modest monthly investment plan.
Lesson 2: Polite farewells and travel support.
No problem. Let me know if you need any further assistance.
Thank you, your help has been invaluable.
I am glad to assist with planning and logistics.
Your recommendations simplified my preparation significantly.
I will remain available for questions at any hour.
That assurance reduces my travel anxiety considerably.
Do you prefer that I send confirmations by email or message?
An email with attachments will help me keep records.
I will include booking numbers and contact details.
Please also add maps and suggested arrival times.
I will attach a printable route map and estimated schedules.
Will you highlight potential delays and alternative plans?
I will note common delays and propose contingency options.
Could you advise on local customs and polite phrases?
I will provide simple etiquette tips and useful phrases.
Will you suggest emergency contacts and embassy information?
I will list local emergency numbers and nearest consular offices.
Should I share my itinerary with a trusted contact?
Sharing your itinerary increases safety and peace of mind.
Do you recommend travel insurance for this trip?
Travel insurance is advisable to cover cancellations and emergencies.
Will you summarize key policy points to consider?
I will outline coverage types, excesses, and claim procedures.
Should I pack additional copies of important documents?
Carry printed copies and digital backups in secure storage.
Will you remind me of medication and prescription protocols?
I will list medications, dosage notes, and doctor contact details.
Could you advise on local health precautions and vaccines?
I will include recommended vaccinations and preventive measures.
Do you think I should register with my embassy before departure?
Embassy registration simplifies assistance in emergencies abroad.
Will you prepare a brief currency and payment guide?
I will explain local currency, tipping norms, and card acceptance.
Should I notify my bank about overseas travel activity?
Notifying your bank prevents unexpected card blocks.
Will you suggest secure ways to carry cash and cards?
Use a concealed money belt and distribute cards between bags.
Do you recommend using ATMs at banks rather than standalone machines?
Bank ATMs tend to be safer and better maintained.
Will you provide advice on local transport and safety tips?
I will list reputable taxi services, transit passes, and safety zones.
Should I pre-book transfers from the airport to the hotel?
Pre-booking reduces stress and ensures timely arrival.
Will you advise on polite behavior when using public transport?
I will outline seating etiquette, queuing norms, and noise considerations.
Could you recommend apps for navigation and language translation?
I will suggest reliable offline maps and translation tools for travelers.
Do you believe learning a few local phrases will aid interaction?
Simple greetings and thank you phrases foster goodwill and ease.
Will you help me practice pronunciation for key phrases?
I will write phonetic guides and simple practice exercises.
Should I be mindful of cultural dress codes at certain sites?
Respectful attire is essential at religious and formal locations.
Will you list items to pack for modesty requirements?
I will recommend scarves, long sleeves, and conservative bottoms as needed.
Do you foresee any weather-related packing adjustments?
I will include seasonal clothing, rain gear, and sun protection tips.
Should I plan for variable power outlets and adapters?
Bring universal adapters and voltage converters if necessary.
Will you provide a checklist for electronics and chargers?
I will list chargers, spare batteries, and cable organizers.
Could you suggest lightweight luggage to ease mobility?
Lightweight bags reduce strain and simplify transport logistics.
Will you recommend secure locks for baggage?
Use TSA-approved locks and discrete luggage tags for safety.
Should I keep valuables in a hotel safe rather than carry them?
Hotel safes reduce the risk of theft for important items.
Do you think a portable safe or a lockbox is useful for hostels?
Portable lockboxes add security when dedicated safes are unavailable.
Will you include tips for respectful photography and consent?
Obtain consent before photographing people and cultural sites.
Could social media sharing pose privacy concerns during travel?
Delay posting real-time locations to protect personal safety and property.
Should I learn basic phrases for asking permission politely?
Phrases such as "May I take your photo, please," show respect and clarity.
Will you offer guidance on tipping etiquette in different countries?
I will outline typical tipping percentages and local expectations.
Do you advise carrying a small phrasebook for the region?
A compact phrasebook is a practical tool for respectful communication.
Will you recommend ways to handle lost documents abroad?
Report to local authorities and contact your embassy immediately.
Should I photocopy my passport and store the copy separately?
Photocopies and digital scans assist authorities and speed replacements.
Will you propose simple safety routines for solo exploration?
Share plans with contacts, avoid risky areas, and remain aware of surroundings.
Do you think blending in with local dress reduces unwanted attention?
Blending in can lower the risk of being targeted as a tourist.
Will you suggest strategies to prevent pickpocketing?
Keep valuables close, minimize distraction, and use secure bags.
Should I be cautious with street food if I have a sensitive stomach?
Choose busy stalls with high turnover and cooked, hot items.
Will you provide hydration and sun safety advice for hot climates?
Drink water regularly, wear a hat, and apply high SPF sunscreen.
Do you recommend scheduling rest periods to avoid travel fatigue?
Short naps and moderate pacing sustain energy and enjoyment.
Will you remind me to back up photos and important files daily?
Regular backups prevent loss and preserve memories and documents.
Should I learn a few emergency phrases for medical situations?
Phrases like "I need a doctor" and "I am allergic to" are vital.
Will you help prepare a short emergency script for local staff?
I will write a concise script with translations for urgent needs.
Do you advise buying a local SIM card for connectivity?
A local SIM often reduces roaming costs and improves reliability.
Will you explain data safety when using public Wi-Fi?
Use a VPN and avoid sensitive transactions on public networks.
Should I carry a small day bag for essentials during excursions?
A lightweight day bag keeps necessities accessible and secure.
Will you include reminders for sustainable travel practices?
Reduce waste, respect wildlife, and support local businesses responsibly.
Do you recommend making time for unplanned discoveries during travel?
Spontaneity can lead to memorable experiences beyond planned itineraries.
Will you prepare a short closing checklist to review before departure?
I will compile a final checklist covering documents, electronics, and essentials.
Will you also provide encouragement to enjoy the journey fully?
Travel enriches language learning, cultural understanding, and personal growth.
Thank you for the comprehensive support and gentle reassurance.
I will finalize the checklist, send the documents, and wish you a safe and joyful trip.
Lesson 3: The Crumbs Debate.
Drawer, you would not need much food.
You could probably live comfortably on the crumbs that people would leave on the table.
That statement sounds provocative and troubling.
Living on crumbs raises questions about dignity and resources.
Is the comment meant as a metaphor or literal suggestion?
As a metaphor, it highlights scarcity and social inequality.
Does such rhetoric risk normalizing inadequate sustenance?
Normalization can desensitize people to serious needs.
Would policymakers use hard data rather than slogans?
Data-driven approaches reveal the scale of food insecurity.
Should public debate focus on systemic causes of scarcity?
Addressing systemic issues offers sustainable solutions.
Could shock value in media raise awareness effectively?
Shock can attract attention but may oversimplify complex problems.
Would sensationalism alienate potential allies?
Alienation can hinder coalition building and pragmatic change.
Do charitable efforts suffice to solve persistent hunger?
Charity can provide relief but rarely solves root causes alone.
Should cities invest in food access infrastructure and education?
Infrastructure and education strengthen food security and health.
Could community fridges and pantries offer immediate relief?
Community initiatives can provide dignity and rapid support.
Are there controversies around public sharing of food in urban spaces?
Regulations and liability concerns sometimes restrict sharing programs.
Should legal frameworks be adapted to protect informal aid?
Thoughtful laws can enable safe, community-led assistance.
Do cultural attitudes influence willingness to accept help?
Stigma and pride may prevent some from seeking necessary aid.
Can respectful messaging reduce shame and encourage use of services?
Compassionate communication increases participation and trust.
Will social media trends about minimalism complicate perceptions?
Trendy minimalism can romanticize hardship and obscure privilege.
Is it controversial to equate voluntary simplicity with forced scarcity?
Equating them ignores power dynamics and economic constraints.
Should influencers clarify when choices are optional?
Transparency about privilege fosters ethical influence and responsibility.
Will education about nutrition be part of any long-term plan?
Nutrition education supports healthier choices within available means.
Are food banks and policy reforms complementary strategies?
Combining immediate aid with systemic reform yields stronger outcomes.
Should corporations be held accountable for food waste?
Corporate accountability can reduce waste and redirect surplus to need.
Could tax incentives motivate donation of edible surplus?
Incentives have encouraged greater corporate participation in donation.
Do urban planners consider access to affordable groceries?
Zoning and transit planning directly affect food accessibility.
Would mobile markets help neighborhoods lacking stores?
Mobile vendors can bridge gaps and bring fresh produce to communities.
Is there a role for urban agriculture in reducing dependency?
Community gardens and rooftop farms increase local resilience.
Could such programs also educate and empower residents?
Participation builds skills, ownership, and social cohesion.
Are crumbs a useful metaphor for minimal provision in policy debates?
Metaphors can illuminate issues but risk overshadowing substantive detail.
Should advocates combine vivid language with actionable proposals?
Combining urgency with clear plans mobilizes effective support.
Will controversy around blunt metaphors distract from solutions?
Distraction weakens momentum unless followed by constructive steps.
Can respectful storytelling humanize those affected by scarcity?
Personal narratives foster empathy and informed public response.
Should media outlets verify context before amplifying provocative lines?
Responsible reporting preserves nuance and public understanding.
Do schools have a role in teaching about food systems and equity?
Schools can cultivate informed citizens and future policy advocates.
Will intersectoral collaboration be necessary to address hunger?
Collaboration among government, NGOs, communities, and businesses is crucial.
Should emergency measures be designed to transition into lasting programs?
Transition planning prevents cyclical dependency and improves outcomes.
Could community-led audits strengthen local accountability?
Audits increase transparency and align services with real needs.
Are debates about resource allocation inherently political and heated?
Resource debates reflect values and require inclusive deliberation.
Should policies be evaluated for unintended negative consequences?
Careful evaluation averts harm and refines interventions effectively.
Will lived experience be central to designing humane policies?
Centering lived experience grounds policy in reality and dignity.
Could small acts of sharing inspire broader social change?
Shared acts can catalyze empathy and larger collective efforts.
Should public discourse balance critique with concrete alternatives?
Balanced discourse mobilizes support and guides practical action.
Is it ethical to use hyperbole when discussing human needs?
Ethics demands caution when words affect vulnerable populations.
Will long-term solutions require political will and public investment?
Political commitment and funding are indispensable for systemic change.
Can viewers be encouraged to act locally after hearing such debates?
Local engagement multiplies impact and fosters sustained community care.
Should content creators present resources for viewers to contribute responsibly?
Providing vetted resources channels attention into meaningful support.
Will frank discussion of uncomfortable ideas remain necessary?
Honest conversation can prompt reflection and motivate reform.
Do you think a metaphor about crumbs should prompt constructive action?
If it stimulates empathy and measurable steps, it can be useful.
I will craft content that challenges complacency and promotes practical, dignified responses.